These days, most African Americans live in major cities, and we often make up a very large percentage of the population of these cities. But until the late 1960s, there were no black mayors of these cities. Since that time, hundreds of black men and women have been elected as mayors in cities in the United States. Pioneers like Carl Stokes in Cleveland, Kenneth Gibson in Newark, Coleman Young in Detroit, Maynard Jackson in Atlanta, Tom Bradley in Los Angeles, Harold Washington in Chicago, and David Dinkins in New York have paved the way for today's black mayors like Cory Booker in Newark, Kasim Reed in Atlanta, Dave Bing in Detroit, Stephanie Rawlings Blake in Baltimore, and Vincent Gray in Washington, D.C. I recently traveled to Sacramento, California to talk with former NBA star and the current mayor of that city, Kevin Johnson. Give me your assessment. How has it been being mayor of a city, going from being an NBA player where you're dealing with a handful of teammates to all of a sudden running a major American city with a lot more teammates?
You know what, there's a lot of similarities in politics and sports. First of all, you know, when I played in the NBA, people threw elbows down in the paint. Politics is a context, and the elbows are even sharper in politics.
Right.
So that's number one. Number two, the other thing, when you play basketball, and I'm a point guard, you got 12 teammates, 11 teammates, and they all want the ball, and they all got big egos. So you have to figure out a way to keep everybody happy. Politics, same way. You got constituents. It's a lot more than 12, but they all have their interests. They all want them met, and you as an elected official have to figure out a way to keep everybody satisfied. And there's a very direct correlation between playing basketball and being a mayor, believe it or not.
But surely there have been days where you said, man, I would much prefer to be on a golf course signing autographs and dealing with this craziness.
Yeah, in fact, today is one of them. Today is one of them. Today is one of them. You know, at the end of the day, though, here's what it boils down for me. You know, when you think about being an elected official, you think about the negatives and the challenges that go with it, but the upside and the positive far outweigh it. You know, for every one shortcoming that comes with the job, there's 10 things that are much more positive. And, you know, Rahm Emanuel was out in Sacramento, out in California the other day, and he was talking about it. He said, look, our kids and our families get impacted because, you know, dad's on the road or he's going to this event or that event. But those kids sure get a chance to see a lot of cool things they wouldn't get to see if Rahm wasn't the mayor of the city of Chicago. So there's trade-offs, but there's nothing I'd rather be doing.
When you talk about being a first-time mayor, clearly there's a learning curve. So for you, how long did it take you to have to figure these things out? Was it very much like coming into the league where you say, man, this is a total new experience? Because you're not elected official before becoming mayor. Surely that had to be a totally different adjustment for you.
Yeah, I think you bring out a good point. The last time I ran for anything was in 3rd grade, and I was class president, but I hadn't run it for anything in junior high, high school, or in college. But the interesting thing is, if you're successful in one area, a lot of the same skills and the same characteristics will transfer into another area. Human behavior, how you treat people, this notion of clearly laying out a goal, and in anything, no matter how good you were in basketball, even Michael Jordan or LeBron James today, Kobe Bryant, it's continual learning. So as a rookie, as a mayor, I made a lot of mistakes. In my 2nd year, I made less mistakes, and now I'm going into year 4. I'm a lot smarter. But there's this constant cycle of learning, and that's going to be something that's going to continue to be with me. And I think all effective leaders are never going to be at a point where they don't learn anymore. So that continual learning is something that's very important to me.
We live in a time where there's lots of fighting, lots of anger at the political system. I would say the only people today probably hate more than politicians are journalists. And so how do you deal with that in terms of trying to get people to understand that the reality is every facet of their life is impacted by government? And so you can be angry, you can be mad, but it is a part of the process, and you have to still deal with it, still deal with government, still deal with politicians.
I think their frustration is warranted. I mean, honestly, if you look at what happens in Washington, if you look at what happens at the state legislature here in California, folks are very disappointed with their elected officials, and there's a lot of reasons why. And part of the reason why I ran for mayor 3.5 years ago was that I wanted to bring something new to local government. I wanted to be very transparent. I wanted to create an environment that people felt empowered. I wanted to create an environment where people can hold their elected officials accountable. If they said they were going to do X, Y, and Z, then hold me accountable to that. And, you know, we have a tremendous obligation as electeds, whether it's at the federal, state, or local level, to really satisfy the needs of our constituents. And there's been far too many situations and instances where people feel they've been betrayed, and distrust runs rampant in this particular profession. I want to be a breath of fresh air. I think there's plenty of electeds out there that are representing those folks in their communities in a way that we're starting to rebuild that trust. It's going to take time, but every time you make enough progress, there's one big setback. And what happens in Washington and in the state of California, it trickles down to Sacramento, even if it did not directly come or originate in my city. So, you know, that's a big challenge, but that's something I'm up for, and we want to be able to take it head on.
So when you look back to the last 3.5 years, what can you point to is by saying, this is what I am able to do in my position as a CEO of a city?
So the neat thing for Sacramento, we have been over-reliant on government jobs as a capital of California, right, and we've been over-reliant on the real estate sector. So when the economy tanks, the government jobs go down.
Because folks got laid off.
They got laid off and
government cuts.
And furloughed. So all those things impact us. And we relied on the real estate. So the housing market hit our community. We were one of the 10 worst cities hit in the country, mm-hmm, with, you know, foreclosures and things of that nature. So what I had to do is figure out a way, how can I create jobs as a mayor? And the green sector was a space. For me, it was like, if we can diversify our economy and take this green economy and create jobs there, that will give us a chance to have an industry that we can be a leader. So over the last few years, we've been one of the leaders in the state of California creating green jobs. So here's what we did. Richard Branson from Virgin, you know, Richard, mm-hmm, Branson, he has this fund where they give $100 million to 2 cities, Miami and Sacramento. With that fund, we can take these commercial buildings and retrofit them. So when you retrofit these buildings with the energy savings, you can take the money and you can hire people. You can create jobs that are solar or weather installate. There's tons of jobs that are living wage, medium, and high wage jobs that we were able to create with private investment partnering with a local government. Mm-hmm. That's been a huge saver. We created 1,500 jobs in Sacramento over a 5-year period. So that's 300 a year, which has been very significant of our community. So that's just one example.
Let's stick to that point in terms of green jobs. I mean, I've had multiple folks on the show. I've talked to Van Jones about this. I've talked to others about this. And that seems to be something that the president talks about a lot. People say we need to do, but it somehow doesn't fully register, I believe, or connect with the voter out there, because folks are still saying, what is a green job? Yeah. So what is that?
So let me just use Sacramento as the capital of California. We have a state that has very aggressive policies on green, which is good for us. We have agriculture, we have weather, we have wind. We have everything that you'd want to be a leader. I actually want to transform Sacramento into the Emerald Valley to be the greenest region in the country. That's how committed I am, mm-hmm, to it. But so let me give you another example that's clear. We have schools all over, you know, this community. And these schools are outdated and they need to be updated. So they need to be more energy efficient, you know, so that they, you know, we drive too much or we spend too much energy, mm-hmm, or we waste too much water. Is there a way to improve the environment and create jobs? Can you kill 2 birds with 1 stone? So what we did is we have 6 counties in this area and we have 22 cities. And what they did is these counties are going to pool their money together and create a $100 million fund. And with that $100 million fund, you'll be able to retrofit 10 different schools, say $10 million per school. Within each of those, a school now, instead of selling the money to Wall Street for, say, a 1% return, they can get 3% here. So the school can service the debt to these treasuries. So that's number one. Mm-hmm. With the energy savings, the school can take the extra money and put back in the classroom and pay teachers. Thirdly, when you retrofit this school, we're going to hire 70 people. So we're taking our dollars, be able to hire 70 people per school. That's 700 jobs over 10 schools. And what are those jobs? Solar panel installation, you weatherize, You got windows and door frames that need to be weatherized. There's tons of things that it's a new industry out there that didn't exist 20, 30, 40 years ago. So the community colleges now are training people to do those jobs. So this is one where you have a win, 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 win across the board. And Sacramento is a prime example that we've been able to do that in our community.
2 questions, both basketball related. A lot of my followers on Twitter wanted me to ask you, would you prefer to have won a championship or still have your dunk over my native Houstonian, Akeem Olajuwon, be on the all-time dunk list for forever?
I can't have both.
Nope, you cannot have both.
I'd rather have the championship. Akeem could have the dunk. I'd rather have the championship. That was the one thing that I can't go back and fix in time. I'd rather have the championship.
See, being from Houston, I didn't mind us beating you guys like that. I really didn't mind it.
You don't want to go there, right? I'm gonna take my jacket off.
I really didn't. I really didn't. Last one. All right, playoffs are going on. You see what's going back and forth. Who goes to the finals? Who wins?
I think ultimately at the end of the day, you have Miami is going to win it all. I think LeBron's going to get his championship this year.
All right. Well, Mayor Johnson, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much, and we'll chat again.
Sounds good.
All right, cool.
Thanks, sir.